Hi, Kennedy. Blood typing. Okay. The evolution of blood typing we're going to go over just briefly. 1901 was the beginning of people really understanding that there were different blood types. Now, it's interesting. Some blood transfusions were going on before this, and they worked, and they didn't work. So they didn't know why. Well, now we have this blood typing, which they later find out is very important. You know, at this point, they come out with A, B, and 0 classifications. And they find that you don't want to put B blood into a person with A blood, or the other way around. So understanding this saved countless lives during World War I. And then in the 1940s, they discovered the rhesus, the RH factor, again, moving the science of blood typing and transfusions further ahead. And in the 60s and 70s, ushered in really sophisticated testing methods. So they could check for all these other factors that just aren't even usually in public knowledge. Okay, so there's all these other things. Scientists recognize 36 blood groups now, comprising over 600 different blood group antigens, and they can test for these, which is great. Now, why we're going to mention this is we're going to talk about miracles in the Catholic Church. Now, what happened at one point is, you know, the Catholic Church, when there's a reported miracle, doesn't just jump on, hop on board and say, praise God, tell everyone about it. This is a miracle. This is wonderful. They take just the opposite position. They look at it and see how it could have been faked. They look at finding any possible other explanation for it to happen before they verify it. So, and there's a lot of facets to this. They look at the theology behind the miracle. Does it align with, Catholic doctrine and different things like this? What about the person who experienced it? Does that person, can they be trusted as a reliable witness? And there's quite a lot going into it. But so then at one point, someone decides to blood type one of the samples of a Eucharistic miracle where there's been blood. There have been other miracles too, where maybe there's a crucifix and it was bleeding through the hands, or there are tears coming down its eyes, or different things like that. So someone decided, well, we've got this. Why don't we type it, blood type it? And they started to see that they were all A-B group. There weren't any B miracles. There weren't any O miracles. They were all just AB. And they soon came to realize that must have been Christ's blood type. And what they did is they went back way before blood types were known. Like, now, the Shroud of Turin hasn't officially been stated to be the burial cloth of Jesus. But what we do know about it is it's got AB blood in it. And is that just a coincidence? I don't think so. And so now, whenever there's a miracle and there's blood involved, one of the first things they do is test it. And if it isn't AB, they throw it out and say, nope, this isn't a miracle for some other reason. We don't even care. Well, I don't know if they'd say that exactly, but they would, if it wasn't AB blood, they would rule it out. Because it like I say, they went back into every instance where they could find enough isolated blood to test, and all of these miracles were all AB blood. Now, it's interesting. There's a young man who's died. He's going to be how do I say it? Not ordained a saint, promoted to the status of a saint. I don't know. There's been miracles that happened, but this was a young man who was he was in love with Christ, the Mass, and the Eucharist. He created this site where he collected up all the Catholic miracles regarding the Eucharist, right? And this actually toured for a while. I actually went, they had it down at St. Anne's Church, and I went to it. It was very interesting. There were like 250 poster, 2 by 3 foot posters, and you could look at each one and read it and go on to the next one. It was really kind of amazing. Some of them are really bizarre, and some of them are not so bizarre, but really still miraculous. Well, so, as we've gotten more science, they apply more science to these supposed miracles. So one of the big ones happened in Argentina. And I forget, I wonder if it says it in my little research here. I was looking at several different things. But in Argentina, this priest, if you have a host, say it gets dropped, the Eucharist gets dropped or whatever, the correct procedure is you put it in water, and when it dissolves away, in other words, it has no more appearance of being the bread or the wine, it is no longer that, and you can pour this down the sink and dispose of it. So this priest went back. He had something, I can't remember exactly why it ended up in the water, but he put it in the water and he looks at it later, and it's red. It appears to be bleeding. And he's like, this is odd. So he takes it to, this is the auxiliary bishop of Argentina at the time, who happens to be the person who will later be Pope Francis, okay? And he's like, he gets some, the first thing he does is he gets a professional photographer in to take some pictures of it. Then he passes it up the chain, and they start looking at it. And the Catholic Church routinely uses atheist scientists to look at these things because they don't want them to have any bias of saying, oh yeah, I know what this is. And so they send this to some world expert, I guess, and he didn't know what the sample was. I guess I don't know quite how they disguised it. They didn't know it came from, the Catholic Church. And he's looking at this stuff and he says, wait a second. This is muscle tissue from the left ventricle of a human heart that was tortured, and the blood type is AB. I'm like, what? And he says, too, he's scratching his head because I guess he knows he's had the sample for a while, and he says, this was taken out of a living person less than 15 minutes ago, according to what I'm seeing. So here he is, an atheist. He writes his report. That goes back to Rome. And they say, yes, this is definitely a miracle. This host actually turned into human heart muscle, and the red coloring was actually blood. Now, there have been some other cases where there was a host and it had turned red, and they looked at it and they were able to determine that the red discoloration was mold. And so they said, no, this isn't a miracle, this is mold. But this other miracle, going through this atheist expert, get tagged as being extremely miraculous. Like the fact that it happened again to be the right blood type, that it was specifically heart tissue. He could specifically tell it was from someone who was tortured. And of course, if you want to see someone tortured, watch The Passion of the Christ. Now, of course, that isn't all taken directly from the Bible, but we do know from the Bible Christ was tortured. He was flogged before he eventually was crucified. And it was torture. As a matter of fact, excuse me, normally blood, when you spill it, will change colors. It won't be red after a while, unless someone's been tortured and it changes the chemical character of their blood. So not only will it stain red, it will stay red. So it's something that happens with the iron in blood of people that have been tortured. And, that's why the blood's still red on the Shroud of Turin. So it's just kind of amazing that, to me, as we have greater science, it isn't like science looks at it and says, oh no, we can prove all these things are fake now. And it's like scientists look at it and say, what's this? I don't have any explanation for this. How could this be human heart tissue? And how can it be so new when, I'm sure it was over 2 weeks before, or whatever time period they said that it had to have been taken from a live individual when the guy had gotten the sample. I mean, you don't normally go up to some world expert and say, oh, we want you to analyze this now. That usually doesn't happen. So it's just kind of amazing. Now, there's a book, which I have in the car here somewhere, right in one of my bags back there, but it details these, around 256 Eucharistic miracles. It talks a lot about that one because there's so much in science that was applied to that one. But like I say, any of the earlier ones that they've gone back to that they could find something to blood type, it was always the AB blood type. And, I don't want to say AB blood type is super rare, but it's rare compared to A, B, and O. There are less people who have AB blood than have A blood or B blood or O blood. So I think it's like 5 or 6%. And of course, you're looking at a certain population there of Jewish people, so that might change the findings of the percentage. Oh, here it is right here. Only about 4% of people worldwide have AB blood, making it the rarest of all blood types. It appears consistently in these miraculous manifestations spanning different time periods and geographic locations. They're mentioning here, let's see, the Shroud of Turin, they mentioned that. Eucharistic miracle of Lucino. This was the 8th century. There was one then, and there was enough material there. It typed to AB. There was a miracle in Siena in 1730. Again, enough blood there to type it and find out it's AB. The miracle in Buenos Aires in 1996. Once again, AB blood. I believe that's the one that was subjected to so much science. And two, I believe if you were to say how could you fake these? Because the people before the year 1900 wouldn't even know what a blood type is. And I believe if you were later doing this, you have to have AB blood. You can't take A blood and B blood and mix them together. They kind of attack each other. So I think it's pretty obvious to a scientist that's involved with blood typing whether there's someone might try to crude, forgery. It just wouldn't work. You'd have to have, the AB blood. But again, the fact that people didn't know about it makes it quite interesting. And so I believe there's another recent miracle that happened, or let's say alleged miracle, and they're investigating it now. Let's read this. The convergence of ancient artifacts, miraculous events, and modern scientific analysis presents an enduring enigma. The consistent presence of AB blood types of these miracles, verified through contemporary scientific methods, offers a unique perspective in the intersection of faith and empirical evidence. Whether viewed through the lens of religious belief or scientific curiosity, the pattern remains one of the most intriguing aspects of documented miraculous phenomenon. Tell me what you think. Bye.